The shimmering lights of Christmas decorations stretched across the streets of New York, reflecting against the cold winter sky. The festive atmosphere, so typical of the holiday season, seeped through every window, every glowing lamp, yet it couldn't erase the loneliness etched on the faces of those hurrying home. On every corner, intricately adorned Christmas trees stood silently, reminding everyone that the day of reunion was drawing near. That evening, amidst the bustling crowd, Elon Musk, the man known for his dreams of reaching the stars, chose a different path. He had just finished a long day filled with meetings at the office. His usual limousine waited nearby, but his eyes lingered on the dazzling lights and the sight of families walking hand in hand. A sense of emptiness washed over him. Perhaps I've forgotten what the holidays truly feel like, Elon thought to himself. That feeling, strange yet familiar, compelled him to do something unexpected. Pulling his hoodie over his head, he walked slowly down the street, heading towards the subway station. The distant chimes of Christmas carols mixed with the faint ringing of a bell from a beggar asking for spare change, adding to the weight in his heart. As he entered the subway station, the cold, sterile neon lights replaced the festive glow outside. Elon quietly bought a ticket, boarded the waiting train, and blended in with the weary crowd. Gazing thoughtfully out the window, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. He remembered his younger days when Christmas was a time he eagerly anticipated. The warmth of family dinners, the carefully wrapped gifts under the tree. But now, amidst the chaos of his responsibilities, those memories seemed to have faded. The train rumbled forward, speeding through dark tunnels and past neighborhoods adorned with glittering decorations. The passengers around him were lost in their own worlds, some engrossed in their phones, others resting their eyes. In that quiet moment, a striking image at the end of the train caught Elon's attention and made his heart skip a beat. A little girl, no older than 6, sat curled up on one of the cold seats. Her thin jacket barely protected her from the biting chill of the night, and her tiny hands clutched a small, worn backpack decorated with a Christmas tree. In her lap lay a small doll, its paint chipped and faded, but held with the tenderness of a treasured possession. On her delicate face, her large round eyes reflected a mixture of worry and a fragile glimmer of hope. Outside the train, the festive Christmas lights flickered brightly, but inside, the stark contrast between the holiday cheer and the girl's solitude tugged painfully at Elon's heart. Alone? At this hour? Where are her parents? Questions flooded his mind. Elon scanned the train car, but no one seemed to notice the little girl. People were either too preoccupied or too indifferent. Some glanced her way briefly before looking away, as if afraid that lingering too long might make them responsible. A wave of emotion surged within Elon. For a fleeting moment, he was reminded of his own Christmases, filled with the warmth of his parents' embrace, the glow of the Christmas tree, and the laughter echoing through the house. But what about this little girl? In that moment, he realized that she wasn't just sitting alone on the train. She was searching for something, perhaps something she had lost or never even had. Elon felt an undeniable urge, one not driven by the cold logic of a man who had built a technological empire, but by the primal instinct of a father. I can't just sit here, he thought, his eyes locked on the fragile figure at the end of the car. And with that decision, Elon Musk's unforgettable Christmas journey began. Elon sat there, his eyes fixed on the far end of the train car, where the little girl sat huddled on the seat. The air around him felt heavier, and the screeching of the train wheels echoed coldly in the unusual stillness of Christmas night. He tried to make sense of it, tried to reason, but it was his heart, not his logic, that urged him to stand. A deep, irresistible instinct compelled him to act. Each of his steps echoed faintly against the floor of the train. The closer he got, the clearer her fragile figure appeared under the dim glow of the overhead lights. She wasn't crying, but her eyes filled with an overwhelming sorrow he knew he'd never forget, struck a chord deep within him. Her thin jacket barely shielded her from the biting cold, and her tiny worn-out shoes seemed unable to keep her frail feet warm. Beside her, a small battered backpack rested precariously on the seat. One corner of it was open, revealing a hand-drawn Christmas card. On it was a crooked Christmas tree, hastily sketched stars, and the uneven words, "I hope Mommy comes home." Elon froze for a moment. The entire train seemed to pause with him. The dazzling Christmas lights outside the window now felt dimmer than ever against the heartbreaking scene before him. Elon crouched down, carefully taking the seat across from her. He didn't want to scare her, but his heart urged him to do something, anything, immediately. "Hi there, are you okay?" he asked, his voice softer than it had ever been. The little girl lifted her head slightly, her gaze uncertain. After a few moments, she shook her head gently, her small hands clutching her worn-out doll even tighter. "Are you waiting for someone? Where are your parents?" Elon asked again, noticing the trembling in her shallow breaths. "I'm waiting for my mommy. But she hasn't come yet," she said weakly, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Her words, like a faint murmur in the dark, made Elon's chest tighten. She glanced down at the Christmas card, her innocent eyes tinged with despair. Elon glanced around the train car once more. Everyone else seemed lost in their own worlds, oblivious to the child sitting there. He could feel the coldness, not just of the winter air, but of the indifference that enveloped the space. "I can't leave her like this," he thought to himself. And in that moment, Elon Musk realized that this Christmas night would not only change the life of this little girl, but also his own. The little girl bowed her head, her tiny arms clutching the worn-out doll as if it were the only friend she had in the world. Her eyes, following the flickering Christmas lights outside the window, didn't hold hope. They simply had nowhere else to look. Amid the bustling joy of the holiday season, she seemed so out of place, like a fragile candle struggling to stay lit in the cold wind. Elon's heart sank. He couldn't fully grasp the pain this child had endured, but he knew one thing for certain. She could not be left alone tonight. A sense of helplessness enveloped Elon as he looked into Lily's eyes that held a story he could never fully comprehend, yet spoke volumes of loneliness and despair. No child on Christmas Eve or any other night should be sitting on a cold train, hungry, fragile, and forgotten. Outside, the Christmas lights sparkled, with artificial stars filling the sky. But inside, Lily was a fading candle, her light growing dimmer with each passing moment. Elon's heart, usually consumed by numbers and grand projects, now held only one pressing thought. He had to act. He wasn't just seeing Lily, he was seeing every child in need of help. And in that moment, he realized that this night had to be different, not just for Lily, but for all the vulnerable souls who deserved so much more. Elon sat across from Lily, her quiet words sinking him deeper into an unshakable sense of guilt and sorrow. He knew he couldn't let this story end with just listening. He had to do something, immediately. Looking around the train car, Elon saw no one else paying attention to the little girl. The dim train lights flickered faintly, and the silence was so heavy that the rhythmic clatter of the wheels on the track seemed to echo endlessly. Elon leaned forward, speaking gently to Lily. "Lily, don't worry. I'm going to help you find your mom. Do you trust me?" Lily lifted her head, her eyes carrying a flicker of hope, but still tinged with hesitation. Slowly, she nodded. Elon stood up and looked toward the front of the train, where the conductor was seated. "I need some help," he thought. He walked over and explained Lily's situation to the conductor, a kind-faced older man who immediately showed concern. "We'll call the police at the next station. They can help us find her mom," the conductor said. Elon returned to Lily and took her small, cold hand in his. Her hand felt like ice, but the trust she placed in him warmed his heart in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. When the train arrived at the next station, Elon stepped off with Lily, accompanied by the conductor who had already called the police. The station was quiet, with just a few Christmas lights hanging loosely from the posts, adding a faint touch of holiday cheer. But for Elon, this place represented an opportunity to change the course of the night. When the police arrived, a young officer with a kind expression stepped out of the patrol car. He listened carefully as Elon explained the situation, then crouched down to speak to Lily. "We're going to find your mom, don't worry," he said gently. But Lily held on to Elon's hand tightly, her eyes conveying what her words couldn't. He was the only person she trusted at that moment. Elon stayed by her side. He knew he couldn't hand this responsibility over entirely to the police without ensuring Lily's safety. "I'll come with her, if she's okay with that," he said, his steady gaze meeting Lily's with quiet determination. Elon knelt down in front of Lily, her tear-streaked eyes now glimmering with a faint trace of trust. In that moment, he was no longer a billionaire, no longer the man dreaming of distant planets. He was simply a father, a human being who saw the pain of an innocent child and knew he had to act. The dreams of Mars, the monumental projects he had built, all seemed to fade in comparison to the small, fragile gaze before him. As Lily's tiny hand slipped into his, Elon felt the fragility of her world, and in that moment, he silently promised, "Tonight, you won't face this loneliness alone." Elon leaned down to meet Lily's gaze. Her eyes were filled with hesitation, but deep within, there was a faint glimmer of hope. The sight gripped his heart like a vice. "I can't let this little girl endure another moment of fear and loneliness," he thought to himself. Whether it's Christmas night or any other day, she deserves to feel safe and warm. He took Lily's cold, trembling hand in his own, her tiny fingers shaking as if searching for an anchor. Elon spoke softly. "Don't worry, Lily. I'll stay here with you. We'll find your mom. Do you trust me?" Lily looked up at him, her eyes still uncertain, but after a moment, she slowly nodded. In that instant, Elon felt as though he had stepped into a mission far greater than building rockets. A mission to protect a fragile, wounded soul. Without hesitation, Elon stood up and approached the train conductor. He explained the situation in a calm yet resolute tone. The conductor, an older man with a face lined with wrinkles but kind eyes, listened attentively and nodded. "I'll call the police. There's a patrol team at the next station. They can help us find the little girl's mother." Elon returned to Lily, sitting back down beside her as if to shield her from anything unsafe in the world. Her small hand still clung tightly to the worn-out doll, but her eyes softened, reassured by the fact that he hadn't left her side. When the train arrived at the next station, Elon and Lily stepped off together. The platform wasn't crowded, and a few scattered Christmas lights hung from the posts, lending a faint hint of holiday cheer. Yet the air carried a surprising warmth that contrasted with the chill of the night. Parked nearby was a police car, and a young officer stepped out, his face a mix of seriousness and gentleness. His presence exuded both authority and reassurance, as though he understood the delicate nature of the situation before him. Elon explained the situation to the police officer, but when the officer suggested taking Lily into the patrol car to process the case, the little girl clung tightly to Elon, her eyes pleading, "Please don't leave me." Kneeling down, Elon gently placed his hands on her frail shoulders. "Don't worry, Lily. I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay with you, and together we'll find your mom, okay?" His words were not only meant to comfort Lily, but also a solemn promise to himself. The officer, noticing the extraordinary trust Lily had placed in Elon, nodded with a touch of emotion in his voice. "I've never seen a child trust a stranger so completely," he said, clearly moved by the connection between them. Elon lifted Lily into his arms, her small body folding into his strong embrace as if she belonged there. "We'll find your mom," he whispered softly. But in his heart, Elon knew this was about more than finding Lily's mother. It was about restoring a sense of peace and security that had been lost in the little girl's world. Elon stepped down the stairs of the train station, Lily still nestled securely in his arms. The Christmas lights twinkling outside the police car windows added a magical glow to the winter night. But Elon's heart was focused on one thing: reuniting this little girl with her mother. The officer, after gathering information from Elon and Lily, quickly coordinated with his team to locate the woman who was likely desperately searching for her child. In the patrol car, Lily began to relax, though her tiny hand still clung tightly to Elon's coat. "Uncle Elon, do you think my mom will be mad at me?" Her small, timid voice broke the silence. Elon gently stroked her head, his voice soft and reassuring. "No, sweetheart. Your mom is probably so worried and just wants to hold you in her arms. We'll see her soon, Lily." His words weren't just meant to calm Lily. They were also a promise to himself that everything would turn out okay. In that moment, Elon realized that what he was doing wasn't just about helping Lily. It was also a reminder to himself of the profound power of compassion, especially during a season meant for togetherness and love. As the situation calmed, Sandra explained that she had faced an unexpected emergency, a critical case at the hospital where she worked. She had asked Lily to wait at a nearby train station, thinking she would be able to pick her up in time, but the delay had been far longer than anticipated. "I'm a night shift nurse," Sandra said, her voice still trembling. "I have to work extra hours just to afford rent and Lily's school fees. My husband passed away from cancer last year, and since then, it's just been me taking care of her." Elon listened intently, every word Sandra spoke piercing his heart. The image of Lily, sitting alone on the cold train, now came into sharper focus, framed by the story of a single mother fighting to make ends meet. Being a single mom is hard enough, but during the holidays, that loneliness becomes even more overwhelming, he thought to himself. Elon looked at Sandra, her eyes filled with exhaustion, yet radiating an unshakable love for Lily. His heart overflowed with indescribable emotions, pain, empathy, and above all, deep admiration for a mother who was fighting tirelessly to protect her daughter. In that moment, he realized that the monumental projects he had pursued paled in comparison to something as simple yet profound as bringing hope and peace to a small family. He didn't just want to help them for one night. He wanted to give them an opportunity to rebuild their lives so that Lily would never again have to sit alone on a cold train. Elon stood silently, watching Sandra embrace her daughter. Their difficult Christmas night had found a temporary peace, but in his heart, he knew the story couldn't end here. "If I only help them get through tonight, will tomorrow really be any better? Sandra and Lily need something more stable, a chance to truly change their lives." He stepped forward and gently spoke to Sandra. "You don't need to thank me. I just want to ask, are you really okay with your current job? I see how much you're doing, but it doesn't seem to be enough to make a real difference for you and Lily." Sandra sighed, her eyes revealing both exhaustion and honesty. "I love being a nurse, but working 2 shifts a day is overwhelming. I do it just to make ends meet for Lily, but sometimes I feel like I can't fully be the mother she deserves." Her voice broke, and she couldn't bring herself to say more. Elon looked at Sandra, a spark of inspiration flashing through his mind. Someone like Sandra, dedicated, resilient, and full of determination, deserves a real opportunity to change her life, he thought. "Sandra, what if I told you there's a way for you to do the work you love while also having the time you need for Lily?" Elon said, his voice warm yet filled with conviction. Sandra looked up, her expression a mix of surprise and skepticism. "What do you mean? I don't understand." Elon smiled gently. "My company is working on a project focused on remote healthcare. I'd like you to join the team, not just as an employee, but as an advisor. You'd have a flexible schedule, enough pay so you wouldn't need to work extra shifts, and most importantly, the time to be there for Lily." Sandra froze, unable to believe what she had just heard. "You really want to help me? Someone you barely even know?" she asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's not about helping. Elon replied, his eyes full of sincerity. I'm offering you an opportunity that I believe you've earned. I see your dedication and strength, and those qualities are some of the most valuable assets any team could have. Sandra looked at Lily, her face lighting up with a glow she hadn't felt in a long time. Lily, as if sensing that her mother had just received wonderful news, smiled and hugged her tightly. I don't know what to say except thank you, Sandra said, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. Not for the job, but for the faith you've placed in me. That means more than anything. Elon nodded gently. Thank you for not giving up. It's that perseverance that brought you and Lily to this moment. All I've done is give you the opportunity to keep walking the path you've already started. Elon looked at Sandra and Lily, his eyes filled with a sense of relief and pride. He hadn't just helped them through a difficult night. He had given them an opportunity to change their future. In that moment, he realized that the power to create a sustainable life doesn't come from giving away money, but from building a foundation that allows others to thrive on their own. Sandra, once an exhausted mother, now had the chance to rise stronger than ever. Lily, once a lonely little girl on a train, could now dream of a brighter future. And Elon, a billionaire with grand ambitions, truly understood that the greatest changes often begin with the smallest acts of kindness. Sandra couldn't hide the smile on her face as she agreed to Elon's offer. But he wasn't finished yet. To ensure Lily would have an even brighter future, Elon had one more special gift for the mother and daughter on this Christmas night. The lives of Sandra and Lily were forever changed after that fateful Christmas night. With the new opportunity Elon provided, Sandra not only gained a stable job, but also found the time to care for and nurture Lily fully. Lily, once a lonely little girl on a cold train, could now smile and embrace the hope of a brighter future. The story of Elon, Sandra, and Lily isn't just about kindness or helping others. It's a testament to how a small act of compassion can spark a monumental change. In this busy world, sometimes all it takes is to pause, listen, and be willing to lend a hand to create simple yet profound miracles. If this story has touched your heart, share it by clicking like, share, and leaving a comment with your thoughts. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay updated with more meaningful stories. Let's build a community that spreads love and kindness. Be a part of this journey, because you too can make miracles happen.